Okay, I think this one's going to be a quick one. Is it? Is it though? Is it going to be a quick one? Is it? But maybe it is. But it doesn't matter. It's going to take longer if we keep stalling. Here's the thing. I am tired. I am so tired of being blamed for Xbox's failures. Aren't you guys tired of that? You know what I'm talking about. You know what? You know what? I'm gonna show you one example, just one example, but you know what I'm talking about. All of these, I guess, supposedly Xbox fans, even though to be honest, I don't really, I feel like a lot of them are just doing it for the persona. But a lot of these supposedly Xbox fans, or even media personalities, like the Ryan McCaffrey is a journalist, you know what the current refrain is at the moment, the new favorite thing to say? Oh, well, if Xbox gets out of gaming, it's going to be bad for the industry. Oh my God, Sony's going to get away with it. It's just like, listen, do you guys know how irrelevant Xbox is? I feel like you don't because you're like, well, most of you are, from the USA. You're America, and you don't understand how irrelevant Xbox is. You don't know. Like you think it matters, but it doesn't to most of the globe. Like it's irrelevant. And in those markets, Sony is competing at a level that is appropriate for their position, right? Like in Europe, people don't even know what an Xbox looks like. And Sony is selling the PlayStation pretty much in line with what they're doing in the US. So that's what I mean. It's just you don't understand how irrelevant your brand is. That you think that somehow it is an industry pillar when for most people they are completely unaware of its existence. And this fear mongering that you're now doing, it would be I think it will almost be acceptable if it was in good faith. And what I mean by that is that if it was simply a cautionary tale, like, hey guys, like for example, when we were trying to warn you about the acquisition of ABK, and we were like, hey guys, in previous like large industry mergers, the customer at the end of the day has lost something of value, right? Something valuable there. Because that competition was meaningful and now it doesn't exist. It allows price gouging, it allows this, it allows that. If it was that, kind of like that element to it where it's more of a cautionary tale, or even a strong argument against the acquisition, sure, absolutely. But you see, here's the one difference there. As we're making the cautionary tale about ABK, we were not putting the blame for the situation on the general public. And yet, it just feels like in all of these moments, again, whether you're looking at the IGNs and the podcasters of the world, or you're looking at the people on Twitter and the gamers of the world, whatever, who is speaking about this situation, it seems all of them are trying to put the blame on us for not wanting to buy an Xbox, basically, or for not supporting the Xbox brand in whichever capacity that we could, or for not believing in Game Pass. Oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing about Game Pass. Game Pass is the only service that people are still talking about today as if it was brand new and it wasn't coming out until a week from now. Like they were just going to espouse you the benefits. Like listen, what Microsoft has managed to do with Game Pass is actually it is frustratingly genius because I realized that it's not just a brand, it's a lifestyle. You know how vegans seem to always want to tell you that they are vegans and all the benefits of veganism, no matter how many times they've told you that before, and you're like, cool, I understand. Shit, I even agree with you. It's the best. The best deal in life, I guess. The best deal in nutrition. Veganism. It's fantastic. I love it. You love it? I love it too. I love it for me and I love it for you. But I don't want to do it though. You know what I mean? It's a bit like when people are like, oh, Emmanuel, you should go on a diet. And I'm like, listen, why would I go on a diet when the first three letters of that word, that's 75%, are DIE? Die. Shouldn't that give you pause? Shouldn't that? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, why we pretend struggling? Why would I go on a diet? Now, you could say, Emmanuel, you should have a healthier, nourishment, plan or whatever. More greens, more fruits, more natural things, better quality food. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, I live in Australia. great quality food here. You know, if you want more organic produce, absolutely. Right? I understand that part. But why would I go on a diet if I can afford to eat? I don't know. Again, I just feel like the first three letters should give you a clue. Right? Now, listen. Whoever made these words, some of them were geniuses. They literally built in a cautionary tale, a warning sign into the word. But let's go back to this. You know, let me show you the example. Because this is just an example, but I'm sure you guys have seen a million of these, right? So here's what I'm talking about. Direct Streetland over here. If Xbox consoles are pulled from the market, it will have a cascade effect that will lead to mass layoffs, less games being produced, content and services being significantly scaled back. The devaluation of the big three members with $1 trillion market cap isn't good news. Okay, first of all, who are you saying this to? That's just what I want to know. I want to know, who are you saying this to? Who is it? Who is it that's supposed to take this warning? Is it us? Because are we doing this? Are we in charge of Xbox? Because there's nothing there that seems to me to indicate that you're speaking to the company. You're just fear mongering amongst the general public. But it feels like there's blame, like a finger pointing at us, like, oh, we should do something. But what are we? Is this a call to action? What are we supposed to do about that? Listen, if Volkswagen decides to close the doors and shut down all of the automotive brands and go into, I don't know, fucking metaverse or something as a business, right? That will have a negative impact on the auto industry. Sure. But am I in charge of Volkswagen? No, I'm not. Am I? I'm not. So what? What am I going to do about it? Yo, it's so funny. Also, here's another one from Kids Smooth. This one is fresh. Xbox Series X is just as premium as the PS5 Pro. We got it 3 years earlier. Listen, man, Kids Move. Man, oh my god. What a fun character. What a fun character. Listen, man, I'm just gonna. Boy, why don't the rest of us believe you, though? Because that's the thing. And this goes right back to the whole game passing. So, for example, right, we have my friend Doc Dark. Doc is amazing, right? Great entertainer, fantastic. Love his channel. But this man has genuinely, and I mean this genuinely, this isn't part of the act. He has genuinely been trying to preach the benefits of Game Pass pretty much ever since I stumbled across his channel in like 2020-ish, I want to say. Ever since that day, multiple videos a month. I'm almost without fail, every single month, trying to establish the benefits of Game Pass. And it's like, bro, we get it. Like, no one is out there trying to establish the benefits of Netflix. You notice that? Netflix came out, and maybe for like the first 2 or 3 years, this was like the first streaming service, and it was coinciding with the whole cut the cord thing. Maybe people were talking about Netflix and how great it was, but even then, I feel like people were not. People were just like, "It's a great service. Go try it." It had a free trial. Remember how they used to give you a whole 30 days free trial? I think some of it was even without like a credit card. But it might have been with a credit card. I think it was with a credit card. But the point is, was 30 days. Like, you could just try it for yourself. Listen, Game Pass did pretty much the same. They gave you free Game Pass with like pack of chips. That's even more. That's even more beneficial than Netflix, because now you got the thing that you wanted to buy at the shops, and you got Game Pass on top. So it was. The point is, people talked about Netflix, said, hey, this is a really great service, a low monthly price, lots of content. People were like, huh, that sounds interesting. And they were like, hey, there's a free trial, give it a go. And then it blew up. And then no one needed to talk to us about the benefits of Netflix again. But now, 8 years later, my man Doc Dark is still making videos talking about the benefits of Game Pass and why he likes Game Pass and why Game Pass is such a good thing and why Game Pass this and Game Pass that. Oh, and why people hate Game Pass. And it's like, nobody hates Game Pass. I don't think anyone hates Game Pass. There are people that think that Game Pass is stupid. No, right? But it's just like, let me show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And listen, dog, I'm sorry, man. Gonna have to pick on you a little bit. But this goes right into the thing where it's like, you guys are blaming us, the general public, for not believing your shit, for not wanting your shit. Like, everybody knows that, for example, an Audi is a great premium brand, even though, to be honest, in recent years, they have really dropped the ball on the quality front. Something that their CEO has said that they are going to fix in the next iteration of cars, but, actions speak louder than, actions speak loud than words not at all. So we're going to have to wait until, whether he improves that or not. But typically, people know that Audi is a great brand, right? People agree with that. That's in the culture, right? Just typically speaking. No one is out there trying to convince people of the benefits of an Audi. You just know about it. You believe in it or you don't. And still people make different choices. There are still people that choose different brands, whether that's for price point reasons or they want even better quality, or like I just spoke about, they believe that the quality has dropped. But the point is, no one's out there trying to convince people yet again about the benefits of an. You know what? Let me just show you the point. Let me just show you this. Look at this. I just went to Dog Dash channel, just typed in Game Pass. Watch the titles because it will give you everything. That's one thing that I do appreciate about Dog. Most of the time, except for the trolling titles, his titles are accurate to what he's going to talk about in the video. I think that's a big part of his success. So over here, Xbox Game Pass hike. This was 9 days ago, right? Is it still worth it? Okay, Game Pass PC versus Game Pass console. Just the facts. 1 year ago. Game Pass is full of duplicate games. 4 years ago. Okay, so this is again just talking about Game Pass, its benefits, what it offers or what it doesn't. Game Pass is just better. 3 years ago. GeForce Now and Game Pass 2 years ago. Game Pass Day One releases enough 2 years ago. I want Game Pass on still 3 months ago. Xbox killed Game Pass 10 days ago. Xbox Game Pass has 1 year to convince me 7 days ago. Game Pass games I will actually play 4 years ago. Razor Kishi Game Pass review 4 years ago. Game Pass game selection 4 years ago. Xbox is better. Where is the Game Pass Call of Duty bundle 7 months ago? Game Pass Ultimate versus my backlog 7 months ago. Oh my god. Okay, Game Pass again 2 years ago. We're just gonna go for the old ones now. The Game Pass effect is real 3 years ago. Oh my god, look at that. I love Game Pass because I love subscription services 4 days ago. The Game Pass effect 2 years ago. The war against Game Pass 2 days ago. There is no war against Game Pass, by the way. That one was funny. In that video, my man Doc said that one of the things that detractors from Game Pass will say is that you don't earn anything. So my man Doc, swear to God, I will not lie on this thing. I will not lie on my one of my favorite people on YouTube. I will not lie on his name. But the man in this particular video, the war against Game Pass, go check it out yourself if you don't believe me. I think it was that one. The man said he compared Game Pass to a car loan or a mortgage, saying that if you are paying your car loan or you're paying for your mortgage, then you do not own those particular assets, just as in Game Pass. I was like, yo, I couldn't finish the video. That was diabolical. That was straight Satan. That was just like, yo, nah. But that's the length that the man went to defend Game Pass from a legit reality of it. I don't even see it as a criticism because it's true for every subscription service. You understand, or you at least you should understand what you're buying into, right? You're buying into access for games, not ownership of games. So honestly, I think that argument is pretty weak. You guys know I am a person that is actually in favor of subscription services. Let me tell you why. I'm in favor of subscription services because it offers an alternative route for some people to their games. Whether that is because their budget might be limited, which is perfectly fine and perfectly valid. I mean, all of us want to obviously be able to afford everything that we want, but I'm not saying that this, but what I'm saying is that it is not, it is a perfectly valid way if you do have a lower budget for gaming, regardless of your actual financial circumstances. You could be a billionaire and you just don't want to put that much into gaming. You know what I'm saying? But it's a perfectly valid way to get access to games. Okay. Or if you are young and you can consume a ton, I mean, typically young, or maybe you're just a billionaire who's retired and you have all the time in the world and you want to spend in gaming, you can consume a ton of content through Game Pass. I love subscription services, PlayStation Plus, Game Pass. Another one Nintendo is doing, I don't think that their subscription service is particularly worth talking about. But if they have something that is, let's say, like an analog to PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, then I also like it. But what I like is the fact that it honestly offers a different price point for people. Listen, some people are quite happy and quite willing to pay the $70 upfront or the $100 upfront or the whatever it takes, right? Other people prefer the free to play games and maybe they will invest further into microtransactions. Other people like rental services like a physical store, or maybe even a or a library. So, for example, in Australia, I think you can borrow actual physical games from like your local library. Obviously, they're not going to have the most extensive collection, but they could have that one game that you're interested in, and you could just borrow from the library, get the physical disc, and then return it 3 weeks later or something like that, and you can have access to the game that way. Or, for some people, subscription services make sense for their particular situation and scenario. I would not want services like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus to go away. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Again, when I think about people who, for example, could be in a financially disadvantaged position, but they can still partake in way more games than we ever could. I mean, back in the day, at least for me, my parents would buy me like 2 games a year if I was lucky. With those 2 games, with that same money, I could have something like a PlayStation Plus, even if it's just extra, for a whole year. That's valuable to me. I think it makes gaming more approachable and makes the barrier of entry lesser, especially for those who are younger. And it also means that they can, I think that they can scale up and level up in the gaming taste a little bit faster because, they can try a wide variety of things and just discover what's out there so that hopefully they don't just grow into people that, quite frankly, only buy the sports games and the Call of Duty game once a year. Because I mean those gamers matter and they are gamers, and but I just wish that there was a way to put more games in front of them early so that they get a taste for variety and diversity. That'd be fantastic. So I think that the subscription services can play a positive role. You guys have always known that I've never hated Game Pass. What I've hated is the Game Pass day and date promise because I knew it wasn't sustainable. I knew it was a dumb business move. And I knew this is so dumb because the other day I'm talking to my girlfriend, right? And I'm explaining to her sort of like the Xbox thing. And I stumble onto Game Pass Day and Date. And I tell her, look, Game Pass Day and Date, it sounds like a great customer friendly promise. And then she said, but companies are not in business to lose money. Because as soon as she heard it, she knew that, wait a second, if you can have access to a catalog of games, for a stupidly small price, and then high value games are put into that service, then the company has to be losing money. I didn't even explain anything. This is not a gamer. I mean, she plays mobile games, but she doesn't understand. She doesn't see herself as the gamer. She doesn't see herself as like a business executive, certainly. But just the logic of the thing to a person that just literally heard about the idea like 30 seconds ago, she was like, yeah, that cannot work. That cannot work. That cannot be sustainable. I didn't say anything. No priming, no nothing. Boom. There it is. So that has always been the aspect of Game Pass that I've always said should just get rid of. Listen, if they had listened, I guarantee you, you wouldn't be paying $30 a month now for Game Pass Ultimate. 100%. But we go back to Doc because sorry about that. Because again, I mean, look at that. Just so many videos on Game Pass. Game Pass, Game Pass. Just talking about Game Pass day in and day out. PS Now is great, just not better than Game Pass. Game Pass $3 tier isn't that bad. 2 years ago, Game Pass made $2.9 billion in 2021, and we only sold for $1 3 years ago. Oh my god. Look at that. It just keeps going. PlayStation Plus is better than Game Pass Ultimate 3 years ago. Again, why don't people believe you? And the reason that I say that is that even though Sony has stopped reporting on the whole, what is it, on the whole subscription numbers that they have, typically they were between like 44 to 52 or 50 million players, but these were active players. And Sony has been telling us that somehow, some way, I don't even know how, that about 30% or more of these people are actually in PlayStation Plus Premium, which makes no sense to me because Extra is clearly the better value. Like, it's not even close. I don't think that Premium offers anything really worthwhile for the price. But maybe they get, I don't know. I guess for some people, they're just like, if I'm gonna get it, I might as well just get the whole thing. But 30% of 50 million, let's say 40 million, just to be safe, conservative, that's 12 million people. I wager that if you were to look at actual Game Pass active subscribers, that is about the same as the entirety of Game Pass. Because let's face it, Game Pass has never told us about the active subscriber count. And this is why people are so, what is it? They're so unaware of how unsustainable Game Pass was. Because they always talked about Game Pass and they said, oh, it has 30 million players. And then they will do 30 million multiplied by, $20 a month or whatever, multiplied by 12 for the entire year. Look how much money they can rake in. Yeah, your calculation is accurate if those were the active player counts, but they're not active. This is just a total cumulative player count. There could be only 3 million people on Game Pass at a time, and if you ask Xbox, they'll be like, yeah, there's been 35 million Game Pass accounts because they're just talking about the entirety of everybody that's ever tried Game Pass. I'm in that number because I use PC Game Pass, so it is what it is, right? Over 4 years ago, Game Pass is the Superman of gaming. Oh my god, Sony PlayStation Spartacus versus Xbox Game Pass. Do you know how long, how long, how long, how much longer are you going to try to give us the entire benefits of Game Pass, right? And then listen, look at that. It just goes on. It's ad infinitum. I could just keep scrolling for hours. This guy has made so many videos with Xbox Game Pass in there. And yet, despite all of that, and despite not just him, but everybody else, right? We've heard it before. Game Pass is the best deal of gaming. That's the IGN, that's the What Culture Gaming, that's the Insider Gaming, that's everything. Everybody has been saying Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, and yet they've got a failing subscription service. That's where they are. Because the people don't believe you. Like, you don't understand the culture. We don't believe you. Was the Kid Smooth saying that the Xbox Series X is just as premium as the PS5 Pro? We don't believe you. We don't believe you. Listen, you know who you should blame for all of this? Derek Strickland over here saying that, oh, if Xbox is that pull from the market and this brand new fear mongering tactic they're all using, all of them, seriously, it looks like they just download firmware from Xbox and then they just regurgitate whatever the Xbox talking point or the wiki is. I don't know if they like workshop it together or they just get it straight from Redmond, but it just always seems that they're always on the same frequency. Just Autobots spewing out the message. I don't know. So, what we're going to have now is talk about who you should blame. And who should blame is Phil Spencer. And you guys know me, okay? Unfortunately, I love talking about gaming and I love talking about especially the community and their reaction to gaming. But you guys know I don't like to edit. So let me do something that I usually try not to do. Let me show you some content from another channel that put this so perfectly. And this released only like 7 hours ago. It was so perfect in describing my frustration and exactly what should happen that I must show you this. So please go and support the channel. I will have a link to this video in the description. Please go and give them a like and a share on everything because, just trying to help other creators, right? Even though they're much bigger than me. But still, look at this and just hear the truth in it. Tell me this doesn't just isn't just a balm for your soul as you listen to this.
Hey there, buddy. How's my number one Xbox fan?
God damn it, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer. Not again.
What, you're not happy to see your old pal Big Philly?
No! Every time you show up, it's just so you can punch me in the dick with bad news. I'm tired of it, man.
Come on, that's
Yo, isn't that true though? And this is just going to be some of the highlight reel. They just chose like things for the last 4 years or so.
Ridiculous. Name one time that's happened.
Hey Phil, I'm really excited to play Halo Infinite. It's gonna be
Unfinished release.
Oh, Halo Infinite. Wasn't that great? All of you idiots that thought that Halo Infinite was a good game. Yo, that's crazy. You're like insane. Insane.
Hey, bud, I know I told you to pin all your hopes on Redfall, but worst game of the year. Massive layoffs at Xbox. Shutting down award-winning studios.
But I thought you said Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit.
Don't you ever quote me to me.
I feel like that's Phil Spencer in real life. I feel like Phil Spencer, every single time I've seen a journalist quote him to him, he's like, I am going to burn your house down. I am going to pay for your house to be burned down. Your house and your grandmother's house. Just the look in his face is just like, don't you ever bring up what I say to my face.
No more Xbox exclusives.
Oh.
Console price hike. Perfect Dark reboot canceled. Another console price hike.
Okay, that's all we get. So I'll put the video in the description. You can go and see the rest of it yourselves. But isn't that the truth though? Like, who made all those decisions? Who decided to buy ABK? Who decided to do Game Pass day and date? Who decided to release the Xbox One X without any games to show its power? Who decided to release the Xbox Series X without any games to show its power? Who decided to let Xbox fail when it came to Halo? Who decided to let Xbox fail when it came to Avowed? When it came to Perfect Dark? They gave us a fake trailer at E3. Oh, well, not E3, but the E3 game period, the Xbox conference. The point is, they gave us a fake trailer of Perfect Dark, completely manufactured, pulled straight out of their ass. Apparently, later on, people were like, "Oh, they were still in the conceptual phase." When they given us like a year after they gave us that trailer. Who decided that? Who decided to show that? Phil Spencer. Who decided to release an Xbox Series S? Tell you what. Let me show you something. Let me show you something that, because the internet remembers, okay? Because sometimes I feel like people don't want to remember exactly what it was. Okay? Who sent this email? This is an email from from Satya Nadella to Phil Spencer, because here's what Phil said. Okay. Here's what Phil said to Satya Nadella. This is March 18, 2020, after this was either the day of or the day after the Mark Cerny presentation, when he was establishing some of the design philosophy behind the PS5. This is what Phil Spencer wrote on that day to Satya Nadella. What Phil Spencer, not me, not you, not anyone watching, unless you're Phil, in which case, you come to the perfect place. I mean, I have consultancy fees, but I have great things to consult on. But aside from that, here's what he said. Even as I type this, I know I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. Oh, he was feeling himself. We've all lived with 7 years of starting off a generation with a price and performance and messaging disadvantage to PS4 with Xbox One. I have to admit, this morning when I woke up knowing the PS5 reveal was today, that the stress level was higher than normal. Now, after almost 12 hours of soaking in the unveil, taking apart their specs, and looking at the community response, I just wanted to say that I'm proud of our team. Now, I want you to know this, because this is such a wonderful insight into Phil Spencer's soul. So for 7 years, he's been feeling that weight of a moment, a mistake that he was absolutely a part of, by the way, because people always blame Don Matrick, but Phil Spencer was part of his team. He gave Don Matrick bad advice, or he did not dissuade Don Matrick, from, going the way that he was going. And he admitted it before in interviews that he was part of the problem at Xbox. So his own personal failure for 7 years with the Xbox One launch. A failure, by the way, that he could have corrected had he just released great games. But on this day, this wonderful day of March 18, 2020, Phil Spencer, nervous as he was awakening, he found himself watching the unveil, and he thought to himself, no, let's slow down. Let's take 12 hours to soak it in, to take apart the specs and look at the community response. And look at that. The very last thing he says is look at the community response. You see, because Phil Spencer somehow, some way needs validation from the community. And when he's talking about the community, I bet you he's not looking at like the entire community response. I bet you he's going to his usual yes men, to the people that are going to gas Xbox up anyway, because he wants that validation. Because Phil Spencer needs validation the way a child needs a toy. Okay, and I'm sorry to infantilize him this way, but we've seen it. We've seen the tools upon tools of podcasts. You know, does he have good news? Oh my God, you certainly will hear about him. And he is proud of our team. And that's one thing that I've always give Phil Spencer. He has always put his team first. That's you know, when people are like Phil Spencer is a good leader, I think this is always why. I think Phil Spencer has bad advisors and yes men that don't let him see that he's got his head stuck up his ass, but he does champion his team no matter what it has been, whether it's an interview, whether he was in a bad mood or a good mood, no matter what has happened, Phil Spencer has always championed his team. And that is something that I respect a lot. Okay, you gotta give the man his flowers. He has never tried to take sole credit. Now, the fact that his team, unfortunately, he personally is surrounded by dumbasses, that's not great. But the engineers, the developers, the people actually doing the work, he's always championed them, at least verbally. Let's go. He continues, we have a better product than Sony does. Look at that. And first of all, can I just, from a writing perspective, I love that. It's active, it is strong, it is direct, it's a beautiful topic sentence. We have a better product than Sony does. No mincing words about it. No, I believe we have. No, we could have. No, we find ourselves in a position where we might. No, no dealing dying. He said to the CEO of Microsoft, we have a better product than Sony does. And then he elaborates not just on hardware, but equally important on the software platform and services on top of the hardware. So you see, he saw the PlayStation 5 unveiling and he believed that he had better better hardware, better software, better services on top of that. That's crazy. Also, this could have been the day. No, this could have been the actual PS5 reveal. This could have been the full conference. This could have been the Spider-Man conference. Hold on. Let me do a little Google searching, right? Let's see. It was PlayStation. It was what is it? Future something, right? The Road to the Future. They called it something for that first conference. Let's go. You know what? That was just terrible. That was a horrible search. That was a whole. I'm just gonna go to the PlayStation channel. I'm just going to go because I want to find where that was. I really should save this in like a specific like gaming playlist. So I don't know. I don't know how to search for this quickly. The future of gaming. I think that's what they called it, right? Yes. Did you might hear a little bit no, that was June 11. That was June 11 that they had the full conference. Okay, all right. So hold on. Let me check. Okay. Don't worry about the noises. I'm just gonna mute this. Because they gave us a little teaser and it was for June 11. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that was June 4th. Okay, so yeah, this must be what he's talking about. Let me check the Mark Cerny. So let's see. Mark Cerny. And no, not that one. The road to PS5. That's what he called it. Okay, and this should be on that particular date. So this is May 19th, 2020, but that's because I'm in Australia and over there would have been May 18th. Okay, there we go. So this year is this particular video. Remember when Mark Cerny was talking all about the SSD and everything? Here it says March 19th, but again, remember that I'm in Australia. So when they posted it, it was actually on March 19th for me, but it was March 18th over there. So when this guy was doing this, and this would have been early in the morning, because Phil Spencer was feeling himself, right? So let's go and find that again. Let's continue. Now that we have made sure that we are exactly on the right day, which is what I said before, but we're the exact day, okay? So we continue there on top of the services. So over here, he hasn't even seen. This is the thing. That's what threw me off because he says that he is better on equally important the software platform. But how do you know that? You haven't even seen the games yet. You didn't know that Spider-Man was going to come freaking day one. You didn't know anything that was going to show up, but he felt so confident. He was feeling himself that day. He watched Mark Cerny's ASMR presentation on technical design and design objectives of consoles, and he was like, "Nah, we want it all. We want everything, right?" So then he goes, "We have the ingredients of a winning plan." This is the first time that he kind of takes a step back to be like, "Okay, well, maybe it's not a guaranteed thing. We just have the ingredients, okay?" But again, this is knowing what Halo Infinite looks like because while he doesn't know what PlayStation has to show, he knows what Xbox has to show. And he thought he had a boy, that's crazy. I felt the feedback from the BOD discussion on being too confident, right? I felt the feedback from the BOD discussion. What's the BOD? I don't know. On being too confident. And maybe this would just reinforce that perception. I get the need to be humbly confident today, to be humbly confident, but today was a good day for us. That's what the man said. He saw that technical presentation. PlayStation mentioned nothing about the game, all the software lineup, all the services to follow, but the man was already feeling himself, right? He says, "We haven't won anything. And I know that we have had discussions about pricing, P&L, profit and loss, investments, etc. This man isn't trying to scoop any of that. Those discussions really matter. But we can take confidence in our product, truth here. And I do believe any conversations needs to start in believing that this was a good day for Xbox. Thanks in indulging me." Okay? So this is fantastic, right? Absolutely fantastic. So let's continue, right? Um Over here, this was from Liz Harmon. I don't know exactly. SLT, I guess it's salutations. I don't know. This morning in a live stream, I don't know who Liz is, by the way. This morning in a live stream, Sony unveiled the technical specs and technical space investment for PS5, the next generation console. Overall, Sony's announcements were in line with our expectations, and we continue to feel good about our offering relative to theirs. I think this is a fairly good paragraph. I like it. I do think that the Xbox Series X is overall in line with the PS5. I think that the PS5 edges it out in several key ways that matter to me and are important to me. Things like the dual sense, things like the better SSD, the better DVR capability, the UI I think is better and everything like that. But hardware wise, if I go into a game and all of those layers are taken away, I think that it's fairly comparable. So far so good. It is now evident that Xbox is the clear next generation technology leader. Wow, that's crazy. Well, so much for that. Both in performance and next generation features, which are critical to enthusiasts and developer audiences. Broad consumer audiences will likely perceive the Xbox Series S and PS5 as roughly comparable. So this is her email that continues. But what I want you to see is if we are following this email chain correctly, right? What I believe is going on here is that this is from Satya Nadella, right? And he's replying to Phil. And I think Phil Spencer attached this particular email from Liz, as part of his email. And this shows you who these yes men are, or yes woman, also, I suppose, in this case. and shows you just how incompetent they are because they are giving Phil bad information. So basically, this is the day, right? Phil Spencer knows that PlayStation 5 is going to be unveiled in one way or another, and he's feeling stressed about it in the morning. He wakes up, realizes that the video is out, and he starts watching it. And he's watching it, he's like, this is a very unconventional way of announcing your next generation platform. A technical debrief, basically, that is aimed more at developers and people in the know about the hardware than at the general consumer. So he's like, okay, we have better messaging on that front because we have at least pulled out the design. Okay, cool, this could be attractive. Then he realizes as Mark Cerny is talking, he gets to the teraflop number. And his team has been feeding him this whole teraflop thing ever since the Xbox One days. Because back in the Xbox One days, it was like 1.3 versus 0.9 or some shit. So they've had this teraflop number in at top of the mind for a while now. And then they had the PS4 Pro came out, and it was again like, something like 4 teraflops. And then they went with the Xbox One X 6 teraflops. So the teraflop thing has been something that's been in the zeitgeist. So he's reading there, he's sitting there, he's thinking. And as he's watching, he's watching the whole what is it? Mark Cerny ASMR. He's nearly falling asleep, but then he wakes up and he's like, oh, they only have like 9.8 or something. And that is overclock, that is boost clock, that is what? That's weird. Okay, all right. And everything like that. And then people rushing to his office and they're like, oh my God, we've got 30% more than they do. And he's like, no, shut up. Close my door. Don't come in here for the next 90 minutes, right? He's watching the rest of it. He's looking up and down, left and right at that presentation. Like, did they hide extra horsepower somewhere? Did they put something there somewhere? There's a bit about audio and everything like that. There's a bit about the SSD. Okay, they beat us on that, but who cares and everything like that. Besides, we're gonna hamper the generation of the whole Xbox Series S anyway. So, So he's looking at it and then he finishes and he puts it down. And he breathes. He goes up to his window and he opens the window. He lets in that Redmond air. It's just like, Steve Jobs, this is for you. Because that's his God, by the way. Yeah, he's a Steve Jobs worshipper. So he's just, Steve Jobs, this is for you, big guy. So he puts it out there, and then he sits back down and he says, you know what? I'm gonna call my team. So he calls the team and he says, guys, come in. And they come in all excited, big smiles on the faces. He says, shut that down. He sits them all down. He sits down the Xbox architect. He sits down another guy from the HR. He sits down another person over there and another person over there and the Sarah Bond there and the Mad Booty there. And he's like, guys, I'm fucking only number one. That's what he says. And then they all erupt in cheers and have like popping champagne. He didn't even see the champagne bottles, but the whole place is a mess. And you know what? The hardware guys are telling him, like, yeah, man, we got 30% more on hardware numbers and everything. They threw a whole celebration. Liz wasn't invited, but so she was busy on something. She wasn't invited to that thing. This person that sent this email. But then she heard about the party and she thought, you know what? Let me kiss up to Phil Spencer too. And so she sends him this fraudulent documentation saying that the Xbox Series X and the PS5 will be seen as roughly comparable for the general public. But we have significant strength in backwards compatibility, which they do. Sony set expectations and that the vast majority of the top 100 games on PS4 will be available on PS5 at launch, while we expect to have over 3,000 titles available at launch. This is so funny because if you actually had listened properly to the demo, they said that when they tested the vast majority of the top 100 performing games from PS4, that it was seamlessly compatible on PS5. They said when they tested it, they didn't say that they would just have 100 games available at launch. That is crazy, but that's what they believe, and this is why you gotta have good team members, because this person was just ass kissing because she wasn't invited to the party. Okay, so she was like trying to find ways to be like, oh, look at this. And then she goes on, we believe that at the same price, we believe at the same price point, we will fare well in head-to-head comparisons, especially as we continue to shift the consumer mindset from console-only exclusives to ecosystem advantages and features. So you see over here, as we continue to shift the consumer mindset from console-only exclusives, do you see even here they are making strategic mistakes? They could have grabbed back the console only exclusive mantle, but they decided to drop it. Even back here, before they announced the Series X consoles in their totality and the games that are coming, this person was already showing. This is what I'm saying. Phil has bad people on his team. Listen, Phil, man, you need consulting, bro. You do. You do. It says the reveal confirmed that they have some features we announced on Monday, but we have developer facing features we still believe are unique to us, including VRR, variable rate shading, okay, and sample feedback streaming. Again, here's the thing, even in this email, she is not telling Phil why these things are going to matter, right? Maybe she doesn't need to because the other people have told Phil how great these features are, which, by the way, where are they? Where are they? Where are the benefits? When have we seen, like, I don't know, an avowed that was like, oh, the reason that we were able to create such a wonderful game was because of sample feedback streaming. What the hell is that? Okay, the key messages were the PS5 key spec reveal, boost mode, okay, they really focused on this. And you can tell that they really focused on this because the Xbox mouthpieces really focused on this. The fact that this was going to be a boost mode, even though Mike Cerny said in his presentation again that this boost mode will be enabled most of the time, and it is only when the PlayStation 5 is kind of going beyond the pale that it will actually boost down. People, oh my god, it's crazy. Variable GPU and CPU clocks, okay? And then SSD performance, they have a 2 times advantage. Off the shelf, expandable storage options. It says similar to us in reality due to minimum size and speed requirements, and 3D special audio, which they say is similar. Okay, fair enough. Details. Okay, Mark Cerny, PS5 architect, walked through the design approach to their console. This is true. Balancing developer familiarity with innovation. He emphasized that GPU teraflops and CPU is not a good measurement of performance. Okay, now listen to this. He emphasized that GPU teraflops and CPU, which is compute units, is not a good measurement of performance. Listen to what she says next. We made this same point with Digital Foundry. Look at that. She literally said, Mark Cerny said, hey, teraflops are kind of BS. And we, not only did we agree, but we have previously said the same thing. But now read the kisassery. Read the kisassery. She continues, but we do have a clear advantage 12 versus 10. But you just said it's bullshit. In 2 different sentences, or 2 different parts of sentences, you say this is an unreliable metric. But then you go on and you want to kiss ass to Phil. So you say, but we have a clear performance advantage. Well, clearly you don't. We're 5 years in. Where is it? Where did the 12 tea bags go? She continues. He also dedicated significant time to the boost mode where the GPU and I think she's meant to say CPU and CPU run in variable frequencies, which require them to build a custom cooling solution. She says, we explicitly rejected this design as it is a significant challenge for developers and effective performance is expected to be lower than these boost clock metrics. That was complete bullshit. Now, they could have rejected that design. Absolutely fine. I expect all of these companies to test out every possible way of making a burger. And eventually they might land on 2 different approaches, but that doesn't mean they didn't test the other. Maybe for what they wanted, their design philosophy, it was not the right approach. But clearly, they completely underestimated how well that design would work for the PS5 to the point where it literally led them astray. And again, people, as you're reading this, as we're going through this document, I want you to ask yourself, how was this your fault? All of these mistakes that they are making, these false assumptions, the fact that she literally says in one part, Mark Cerny, PS5 architects, emphasize that GPU, teraflops, and compute units are not a good measurement of performance. We made the same point with Digital Foundry. So we agree, but we have a clear performance advantage. You literally say it's not a good measurement of performance, and then you say, but we have a clear performance advantage. That is insane. If I told you that how many potatoes a supermarket has is not a good it's not a good indicator on the cleanliness of the place, but this supermarket has 100 times more potatoes, so it must be cleaner. You'll be like, wait, hold on. But you just say that the amount of potatoes that it has no real, you know, correlation with how clean of a supermarket it is. So then why are you claiming in the next part that because it has 100 times more potatoes, it is cleaner? Or it is not cleaner? Whatever, whichever way you want to, like, you literally just said, don't look at this for this metric. That's crazy. Do you see the kisassery? So in many ways, I feel for Phil Spencer, because how do you make good decisions as a leader when this is part of your team? How? How do you do that? How could you possibly do that? It's insane. It is insane. That's crazy. So they said they explicitly rejected this design. Okay. And then they said the part that I think is complete bullshit. And we all know it's complete bullshit because we have the benefit of hindsight. But they should have known. This is the thing. You and I, we can have the benefit of hindsight. But these people, they need to have foresight. They should have been like, you know what? We might not know how that's gonna go. So let's just leave it, just leave it as neutral. We don't know how this is gonna go. Of course, by now, the thing that really made the Xbox Series X launch fail isn't what PlayStation did well, it's what Xbox did badly. So at this time, Phil Spencer should really have been like, oh shit, Halo Infinite is trash. Absolute garbage. What are we gonna do about that? But it doesn't matter, right? Because the foresight just being his ass kicks with this particular thing. But effective performance is expected to be lower than these boost clock metrics. And again, they believe this because the Xbox mouthpieces were saying the same thing around the time. Pretty much as soon as that video came out for Mark Cerny, people were talking about boost clocks and how it was actually going to drop to 8 teraflops most of the time. That's crazy. I also remember people making a big fuss about like, oh well, if you put your PlayStation 5 in a closed cabinet, it's going to drop down to like 6 teraflops. Crazy, man. Oh man. Okay, we continue. She continues. We expect that we'll have a 30% advantage on GPU performance and a 25% memory bandwidth advantage in terms of real world performance. So, a few things here. First of all, this woman is again extrapolating that from the teraflop count, a metric that she said in the same fucking paragraph wasn't a good indicator of performance. Isn't that insane? How did Phil Spencer read this and not pick up on that? No, because he's surrounded by yes men. He likes his ass being kissed. So, like, that is like such a non sequitur. Like, how could you, in the same paragraph, preemptively negate everything you're about to say, but then say it anyway and present as a 30% advantage on GPU performance? And by the way, the second thing to note about these numbers, these were the same numbers that the Xbox mouthpieces at the time, and some even to this day are still saying it's 30% better in GPU. Oh my god, it's so fuck. But you see where it comes from. So again, where is your blame in this? Now listen, if you were an Xbox mouthpiece, then or now, or in the future, I do blame you. Because you were repeating, or you were saying, or you're still saying a lot of these false metrics. Because literally, again, remember, GPU teraflops and CU from both PlayStation and Xbox were recognized as a poor indicator of performance, of actual real world performance. That's crazy. Continuing. Sony talked at length about the move to SSDs and the advantages for game developers and consumers. They have optimized for raw, higher throughput, twice as good as ours, with slightly better hardware compression and associated performance improvements, as opposed to a more integrated streaming architecture enabled by sampler feedback streaming. Now, this one is one of those things where you know it's just about ass kissing because she could have stopped there just at improvements. But what she said is that it is as opposed to a more integrated streaming architecture. But you literally just said that theirs is slightly better hardware and associated performance improvements with higher raw power to like you're basically saying that, oh, they did things better with the custom solution, but we have an integrated solution. But that's not better. Like just leave that out. But you want to make Phil Spencer feel better. Their approach to expansion is different from ours. We have a custom expansion card while they are using a more standard NVMe M.2 SSD slot. No existing drives meet the required performance or physical form factor constraints, but in the long term, their approach may provide price advantage. Now, again, this is a one of these things where it's a subtle lie, but it's kind of big, okay, in the it's kind of a big deal when you think about it. Now, the first part is true. No existing drives meet the required performance. That was true at the time. Absolutely. But then look at this part. Why is this lie necessary? Or physical form factor constraints. Why is that lie necessary? SSDs have been looking like that the entire way through. So does this person not know what normal SSDs look like? Or were they just lying to make it seem like the custom solution that Xbox came from, which by the way is the foreign design to the market, that was somehow good also, or that was like neutral and not a detriment. Because why are you lying about the physical form factor? Honestly, ever since like I don't know ever since M.2 SSDs were created, they looked like the form factor. Like what? And the thing is, the PS5 can accept different lengths of M.2 SSDs, so you couldn't even say that. They had literally a standardized form factor with variability enabled by the design. That was a complete lie out of nowhere. And it's a small lie, but it's in a kind of a big lie at the same time. Because if I say like, oh, the new camera for my competitor is going to use SD cards in a form factor that we haven't seen before, but it's just a standard SD card slot. Even if you say that the performance that it requires out of a card isn't yet what the market has produced, the actual physical form factor being the same as every other SD card, why would you lie on that? That makes you an unreliable narrator. That makes you unreliable to give me advice. If I was Phil Spencer, I would have been like, what the fuck are you on about? This is a standard SSD. And Phil Spencer is supposed to be a gamer. He's supposed to be a person that, I mean, has he ever claimed to have put his PC together? But how would he not know? How would he not know that was just a standard M.2 SSD bay? Like, just the form factor was already common. That's insane. That's an insane thing to lie about. It's an insane thing because it's so easy to disprove. But this email wasn't sent directly to Phil Spencer. This was sent to like the whole team, right? The whole STL group, whatever the fuck that means, right? So no one on that team corrected her to be like, hey, that is a standard form. That's standard form factor. That's a standard bay. Because everybody wants to be kissing ass instead of giving good advice. Let's continue. Now, they say that their approach may provide a price advantage. Again, if I was the one advising Phil Spencer at the time, I would have been like, we need to figure this out very quickly because while we may have the advantage for the first year or two in that our cards are going to be readily available, we should see if we could make modifications to future consoles to have an expandable bay like the PlayStation 5 so that people can put in standard SSDs in it because as time goes on, their price advantage will be just huge, absolutely huge. Some of those 2 terabyte cards, I think to this day, that's still costing $200 or $300 for like 2 terabytes on the Xbox, and it's like $100 on the PlayStation 5 because you can just buy a standard SSD. Another advantage that having standard form factor means is that if a person were to invest let's say even like a ridiculous number, like $400 in an 8 terabyte SSD on the PlayStation 5, they can, when the PlayStation 5 finishes their generation, they can at least use that same 8 terabytes and put it in a PC. So it's a standard part. They can put it in a PC, they can buy an SSD enclosure and use it as a portable drive. They have ways of utilizing that card, way beyond the lifespan of the console, should they choose to. Maybe if the PlayStation 6 keeps the same specifications, they can take that thing and put it in the PlayStation 6. So it has that, variability. Whereas the Xbox Series cards, they are locked down to the Xbox hardware. Now, of course, they could have created the next Xbox hardware and could have allowed you to use that particular card as well. But should you not want an Xbox anymore, you can't use that card on a PC. Should you not want a PlayStation anymore, have you invested in an SSD expansion, you can use that card on your PC as a portable SSD, so on and so forth. I would have highlighted those particular advantages and say, hey, we need to make sure that even if you don't have it at launch, future versions of Xbox have that particular ability, that particular capacity, as well as there's still the convenience of the standard card slot that we already did. Not the standard card slot, but the custom card slot that we already made with Western Digital or Seagate or whoever it is that was making it, right? So you could have offered both. You could have, and even if you don't have it at launch, just future revisions of the consoles, you could have that. That could be like a nice little, thing later on, year one, maybe year two, year three. Put out the console. It has that expandable SSD, and you can just put in the standard SSD in there, should you choose to. I would have made that point in this email. Sony also spent what seemed like a disproportionate amount of time on audio innovations, and we believe we have similar capabilities. Why? Why would you believe that? Because he talked about having a dedicated hardware block called the Tempest engine specifically for audio. And I think he said that the Tempest engine alone had as many teraflops as the whole PS5, so PS4, right? So they will put an entire console's worth of performance into audio, which clearly you did not do. Why would you believe you have similar capabilities? Now, you could have said that we have competitive, alternatives such as Dolby Atmos support and everything like that. But no, you shouldn't. No. Listen, if a person, I don't know, let's say that I play chess and then another person plays chess. Great. In that amount, we both play chess. And then this person, for some reason, I don't know where this analogy is going, but this person also is a dedicated marathon runner. Why would I think that I have similar capabilities to him? I didn't do that training. I don't do that regularly. So why would I assume, even if physically we look the same size or whatever, why would I assume that I have similar performance to him in running? Like, no. This person had a dedicated hardware block to process audio, made a big deal out of it. You should have been like, hey, they could have the advantage there, but we believe we can offer something where to the average gamer, they will not be comparing these two things side by side. Because that's the thing. You can't really hear how much better a PS5 is in terms of audio processing than an Xbox, unless you can somehow A/B them very quickly. And listen, coming from the world of people that care about sound and speakers and everything like that, it's extremely hard to A/B any two particular systems. Extremely hard, So most people, even if they're getting worse sound on the Xbox, they're not going to know that unless they can A/B the two consoles side by side. Okay, the person finally went out and then put together kind of like their thing, and you can tell over here that it added variable frequency. Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh, that is so funny. Listen, let's go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Whose fault is it? Why are we, the gamers, the ones being preached to by all of these industry mouthpieces, these Xbox guys, talking about the imminent demise of the console as if it had been our fault? Why? Stop talking to us. Stop talking to us. Go talk to Phil Spencer. Go talk to Phil Spencer's team. Go track down Liz and tell her why were you giving Phil bad information and gassing him up, making him believe and making him be way more confident than he had any right to be when you guys hadn't even seen what PlayStation was bringing to market. You hadn't even seen the console design. You hadn't seen the games they were putting out. In fact, your house was already on fire. Halo was already trash, but you wanted to sit there and throw stones at the other house. You don't even know what the house looks like yet. So is it our fault? I say no. And I'm not going to feel bad for Xbox failing when I had no part in its failing. I had nothing to do with their failure. I didn't stop them from programming Halo better. I didn't stop them from releasing more games. I didn't encourage Phil to cancel more games. Right? I didn't even participate in Game Pass at that time because one, I didn't believe in it, but two, I wasn't interested. So I don't know. I find it so weird because I don't think that happens in any other industry. I don't think there's any other industry where it fails and the customer is put at fault or the person that didn't want to be a customer. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So let me know what you guys think. Are we crazy? Is it our fault? Should we take personal responsibility now? Should we feel bad for the Xbox platform, their leaders, and everybody else that fucked up? Or is it like what that video that I showed talked about, where it's like, no, it's Phil Spencer. Listen, at the end of the day, I think that Phil Spencer may be one non genuinely good leader with a truly awful advisory panel. Perfectly possible. But the buck stops with him. He is the leader. I will not blame Satya. I will not blame Liz. I will not blame Sarah Bond or Matt Booty or Andrew Garfield. I don't know. I will not blame anybody else. It's the person at the top. It is the leader's job to steer the company right. And while I can admire that Phil Spencer has always championed his team, and I can admire that he has always had a passion for this industry, I am perfectly within my right to say that he is an ineffective, incompetent leader all the same. Because when it came down to delivering on what the market actually wanted from in this industry, what the gamers actually wanted, despite all of his community outreach, despite all of his mouthpieces, despite all of the feedback that he was getting apparently from Twitter and the internet and whatever, he's been making the wrong decisions again and again and again. And that didn't just start at the beginning of his tenure as the head of Xbox. It began all the way back when he was the Liz, what is it? When he was the Liz, whatever her name was, Liz Harmon or whatever, to Don Matrick. When he was the one sending emails, gassing Don Matrick up for no good reason. So he's been on both sides. He's been a bad advisor, and now he's the bad advisee, right? Yes. So he's shit at his job. He is shit at his job. Now he could be amicable, he could be jovial, he can be affable. By the end of the day, he's bad at it. He's made bad decisions. And so many other CEOs have been fired for less. So listen, if you are an Xbox fan, understand this. Number one, it is not our fault that we don't buy into whatever Game Pass or Xbox or Phil Spencer is offering. If those things are not interesting to us, it is Microsoft's job to make those things interesting to us. There is no war against Game Pass. There's no war against Xbox. There's nobody out here that wishes Xbox to fail and die and crash and burn. And even if they did, they will have no authority over that. At the end of the day, I want to finish on this. Xbox is a great company. They have great people there. They have people there that truly care to make the best games. There are people there that are truly hungry for the win and they want the championship belt. There are people there that would, in a day, turn everything around if they could. They have the money, they have the resources, they have the developer, they have the human talent. What they don't have is the vision. What they are lacking is the fight. But their death is not preordained. There is nothing that says that Xbox has to go away. There's nothing that says that Xbox cannot turn the ship around. They are a subsidiary of a $4 trillion company. They have the manpower and all of the resources on planet Earth to turn everything around. But in order to do that, they need to get the proper vision. And they will need to go through years of pain as they implement what I believe should be a 180-degree move. Turn away from cloud, turn away from PC, go back to consoles and consoles exclusives, go back to the drawing board. Turn away from Game Pass day and date. Yeah, those are all things that would be extremely painful things to turn around. Get rid of this yes man mentality culture. You guys saw the email. I mean, the part where this person, this individual, this human being with a brain literally says, this is not a good metric for performance, but because of this metric, we believe we have a 30% performance advantage. That should get you fired. That sentence alone should get you fired. Or at least relegated to like the back room. I'll put you on janitor duties for saying something that dumb. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I've been listening to a few videos of Laura Fryer, and then she talked about how a lot of people at Xbox post 2008, and she worked there, came in more because of patronage, because of who they knew, who their friends were, rather than meritocracy, where they actually were good at the jobs and they deserved to be there because of their ability to perform their job. No one exemplifies that more than Phil Spencer. And again, I feel like there is a bipolarity with Phil Spencer. I think that as a human and as a leader of teams, he could be one of the greatest. I think so. I genuinely believe so. I believe that if I sat down with Phil Spencer and I had a meal or we played a game, I think I would like that guy tremendously. I think I would. I really do. From everything that he says, everything that he talks about, I believe this man has good in him, in that he truly wants to succeed. But at the same time, I don't think he knows what success looks like. I don't think he knows. I think, you know what Phil Spencer reminds me of? It's a bit like myself as a photographer. And I'm going to tell you a little moment there. Like when I take photos, right? I'm a good photographer. I believe it. I believe in my talent. I believe in my eye. I believe in my vision. I trust my equipment, and I believe I'm good. I believe I'm good at it, right? And yet there are times when I'm reviewing the photos, right? Whether this is for a client or more importantly, when it's for myself. And this could be for any subject, a landscape, a macro, just having fun, whatever it is. And I look at it and I'm like, is that good though? Is that good? And so when I was beginning into photography, what I would do is that I would send a photo to my friends, like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think of this? And then one day I'm watching a seminar by a much more experienced photographer. This guy's been like 15 years, sorry, 50 years in photography, 40 of those extremely successful, right? And he said, at the beginning, you will feel self-doubt towards the quality of your own work. And you will send it to your friends, you will send it to photo sites for review, you will send it to like YouTube photographers so that they can critique your photos. You do all of that, and that's perfectly natural, that's perfectly normal. But pretty soon, usually within 6 months, you have to start trusting in your own vision. Yes, you can still send to other people. Yes, you can still get secondary opinions. Yes, you can still get feedback and criticism. But he says at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself and your instinct, and you have to know what your success looks like for you and your art, because it's you and your art. And that touched me, man. That hit me. Because I was like, yeah. So to this day, as I'm feeling that hesitation, like, is that good? Did I do good here? I think to myself, you know what? Take a moment, take a step back, and trust that you're going to know upon review when you get home and you've had tea, you've had a shower, and you come back with a fresher mind, you will know whether this is good or not. I will know it. I've had photos that I think I've rather mediocre, rather bad, that other people have loved. Absolutely loved. To the point where they've asked me to print it out for them. And I'm like, okay, I will do that for you because you appreciate this photo. but I know that's not my best work for me. I know my position. I know what my success looks like, and I know that this to me was not a successful frame, right? I don't think that Phil Spencer has ever gotten to that stage when he knows what success looks like for him. And I think that we can still look at the history. Just under his tendency, where console exclusives mattered, then they didn't. Then they mattered again, then they didn't. Then they kind of mattered, so long as they were not put on PlayStation, and now they don't at all. There's nowhere line. Phil Spencer doesn't have that innate trust in himself to deliver the success that he wants to see, making all the sacrifices that are necessary along the way. He's pulled in too many other directions, chasing too many different things at once, and he doesn't trust inherently in his own idea of what success looks like. I don't think that he does. A lot of people nowadays, they make the excuse that, oh, Xbox was going to be shut down by Satya Nadella, and Phil Spencer said, you know what, Satya, don't shut us down, we can be part of your cloud vision. And people make that seem like that was a genius move by Phil Spencer to buy them more time. But was it? Was it a genius move? Why? Why do you think that way? Because that was Satya's vision. The cloud thing, that's Satya. That's what success looks like for Satya. That's his vision. And he has stuck to that. If you went and you said to Satya, hey, you should release Microsoft Office, as a singular package that people can download and pay for once, people would laugh you in the face. Because even if that could be successful, even if you were to prove to him that that would be more successful than the cloud approach, that's not success for him. That's what his vision of success looks like. You would have to get a new CEO of Microsoft, or at least a new CEO in charge of those particular products, for Satya to basically let that happen. That's not his vision. He knows what his success looks like. He's adamant. Satya is that established photographer of 40 plus years of experience. When he shoots a frame, he isn't like me. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't vacillate. He knows instantly, was it successful or was it not? And if it was not, why wasn't it? He can immediately tell that just from the moment. He probably doesn't even need to review the picture. He just takes the frame. He knows the moment he presses the shutter, everything that happened within that split millisecond that the camera instantly first time, he knows whether that was successful or not instantly like that. That is Satya. He believes in his vision, and he's going to take the company towards that vision for good or for ill. But what was, before that fateful meeting, what was Phil's vision? And why are you buying into Satya's when that's not going to work for your industry and you should have been known that? You should have known that. You should have known that. Why? Because PlayStation tried it first. They were already doing PlayStation Now, PlayStation Cloud, PlayStation this, and it was going absolutely nowhere. And even though now they have 4K and you have PlayStation Cloud available on PlayStation Plus Premium, and you can have it as part of the portal, and you can have this and you can have that, it's still doing nothing. The point is, Phil Spencer made the mistake that so many young photographers make. They might send a photo to me. They might send a photo to a much more established, photographer. They might send a photo on a YouTube channel or a critique or a photo competition, and they get feedback. And they let that feedback change what the vision for their success in photography is. Because the other day, I was watching a really talented photographer take photos that I absolutely did not care for. And technically, the photos were great. They were sharp, they were made with great equipment, accuracy. He clearly had a vision, he was enjoying what he was shooting. And I was looking at those photos, and I'm like, I am so indifferent to these photos that it's worse than me hating them. At least if I hated the photos, I would have some emotional reaction to them. But I was looking at those photos, and again, just completely different vision, huh? And you're a great photographer. I want to stress that. Absolutely fantastic photographer. I just couldn't, I was like, no, I don't care. And I mean, I am indifferent to your photography. And that is the worst feeling. Man, if I show you one of my photos and you are indifferent to it, oh man, that hurts. That hurts. At least get something out of you, you know? But again, completely. And you know what? Imagine if that guy has sent me that photo and be like, hey Emmanuel, what do you think? I would have I would have tore that thing apart. I would have been like, this is like, I don't know, milkweed. I don't know if milkweed is a thing, but like a milk and a tumbleweed. Just picture the two. Like a tumbleweed with the flavor of milk. A milk flavored tumbleweed. Just tumbleweeling through the entire desert. Like nobody cares. I would make that person feel so bad, so abjectly shit as a photographer because my vision is so far from his that he could never succeed as a photographer following what I would like him to follow because we just so far apart. And that's exactly what has happened to Xbox. Xbox was never meant to succeed on a cloud first basis. That was always Satya's vision. It should never have been Phil's. But Phil, whether for good or for ill, he felt that he needed to align his platform with Satya's vision, and here we are today. The platform is basically dead, rotting as a corpse. And that is the thing. If you're going to be successful in life, you must invite feedback, good feedback. You must not have yes men, and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you need to have your own vision. And final thing to point this out. By the way, this was not this was not a quick video. The final thing I will say is when I'm around my 20s, a little bit earlier maybe, I'm doing this thing where I'm asking my friends like, hey, um, what is it that really annoys you about me, the way that I act, the way that I talk, the way that I behave, whatever. Just whatever annoys you about me, what is it that you would like me to fix? What would you like me to work on? And I remember before they answered, I always tell them like, hey, listen, 80% of what you say I'm going to ignore because some things are too hard for the amount of effort it's going to take. So, for example, let's just take a quick example. If a person was like, man, to change your sense of humor, that's not going to happen. That is way too much work. And that's going to take me to a place where I don't even want to be that person with a different sense of humor. So there's no point in doing that. If a person is like, oh, Emmanuel, stop telling really personal stories or asking really personal questions to strangers. Again, that's not going to happen. That's part of my sense of humor, my sense of being, my ability to make a total stranger feel as if we can talk as if we've been best friends for 15 years. That's the skill that I have, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to sacrifice that at the altar of making people slightly comfortable or whatever it is. Right? Not worth the sacrifice. But you will say 20% of things, and those things will be gems. And I told them I was going to take 3 of those things, and I'm going to try to incorporate them over the next 3 months, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that you see real progress, so that when we meet again next year, and I say to you, hey, did you see an improvement in those areas that you asked me to improve on? I would like you to say yes. I would like you to agree. I would like you to see that, yeah, genuinely, you have tried, whether or not you have achieved it yet, but you have tried, in a real way to ameliorate yourself in these areas. But that's because I had a vision. You see, I knew who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be like in the future. And I held on to that. But I also invited feedback to be like, okay, well, maybe there are parts of my personality that I don't see that could, also just use a little bit of polish. But ultimately, if a person says something that was going to take me way too far from who I am, so for example, if a person, I've had this feedback plenty of times, a person's like, oh, you're too direct, and that can make people feel uncomfortable. Okay, well, respectfully speaking, what the fuck do I care about your comfort? Why? If I know something that I believe is the truth, I'm going to tell you. How comfortable you feel with that, that's the you thing. That's not a me thing. You could be the most comfortable person without the harshest feedback ever. I don't know where you're coming from. You could be a person that is a total snowflake, and if I said to you, your laces are untied, you could get offended. I don't know where on the spectrum you lie. So I'm not going to try to cater to that, to an unknown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the best to be truthful, not overly unkind or mean or brutish about it, but just tell you the truth, right? So, for example, if your shoelace is untied, I'm going to say, hey, your shoelace is untied. I'm not going to sugarcoat it like, oh, hey, by the way, what kind of a day have you had? You know, oh, by the way, oh, I've noticed that you use that new style. You know, when people these days they don't tie the shoelaces. Oh, you kids are so cool. No, there's no euphemism about it. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be direct. You know, and I'm going to be forthright about it. I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be a brute. I don't have to make fun of you. I don't have to judge you. I don't have to make you feel less than as I'm delivering that to you. I don't have to do any of those things. And by the way, those are some of the feedback. Like, hey, sometimes the way that you say it is mean, you know? Like you say that you don't have to be mean, but it often is mean. I was like, okay, you're right about that. I can take that away, right? So I'm better at doing that. But that was the thing. I had a vision. I wanted to be a truthful, forthright person who is not making people's feelings or the perception of people's feelings. Because at the end of the day, I don't know how you're going to react. I could give you feedback that is some of the most personal, most deep, most passionately, potentially hurtful thing. And you could just take it like a champ and be like, hey, you know what? You're right. I need to actually improve on that. And then the other day, I could give you something trivial like, hey, man, I think that your home decor, is a little bit, it's got too many, red items. It's like red frames, red pillows, red, 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 red. And then you could just blow up and be like, don't you ever come to my house again. I don't know. You could be on a bad day. You could be on a good day. You could have heard that feedback 1,000 times. I may be the first person to ever have the courage to tell you. I don't know where I lie, but I can control my side, which is, hey, I can tell you something and I can try to make it kind as I deliver it to you. I can be empathetic as you receive it and maybe you react to it. But I don't have to lie. I don't have to sugarcoat it either. Right? So that's what I wanted to be. And when my friends were pointing out to me, like, hey, there are times where you fell in your own stated goal, and here are the times when you have failed, and here are the ways in which we feel that you have failed. I took that on board and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's absolutely right." But that feedback was aligned with my vision. Just like again, if I am a photographer and I have a particular frame, and then the person's like, oh yeah, this is a great frame. I can see what you were going for. But why do you have that element on the side? It's actually really distracting. I could be like, you're absolutely right. I don't need to have that element there because it's not actually part of the vision for the photograph. I don't want people to look there. I want people to look here. So that's perfectly fine. But if a person suddenly is like, hey, you shouldn't have shot it at all, you should have turned the camera around and shot that other thing instead, well, that's not my vision. And that's literally the divide. Because when I was watching that very talented photographer on YouTube the other day, and he was taking photos. I was like, why are you taking photos of that? I have no emotional connection to that. Like, it's your frame is perfectly fine. I can see what you're doing. I can even see what is clever about what you're doing. But what you're doing is completely unemotional. And I remember the very first time that I felt this was, do you remember those talent shows like America's Got Talent, Australia's Got Talent? I remember one time, I usually didn't watch them. I remember one time I'm walking out and, my parents are watching the show. And there's this kid on the piano. He must have been like 15, 16. And this guy was, my God, he was a god, an absolute god. He went and his fingers were stringing melodies and sounds and beautiful technical accuracy. I was listening to that piece and I'm like, that is one of the most technically complex pieces anybody could have chosen. And I have zero emotional connection to it. Zero. It was like, it wasn't noise because it was musical. It had melody. But it may as well have been noise because there was no emotional pull. It was all technical things. A bit like if I showed you like a sample of like the whitest white to ever exist, and they say, "Oh, this is a paint sample," and you can be like, "Okay, that is indeed the whitest white I've ever seen." But are you necessarily emotionally reacting to that? Or are you just, kind of in it for the nerding and the technical accuracy of that? And then the judges were talking, and pretty much all of them said, hey, that was a complete masterpiece on a technical level and a complete non starter on an emotional level. And they told him, if you want to be a musician, now that you have all of this technical skill that is capable of creating what you just did, that complex, technically masterful melody, go ahead and invest yourself in creating some emotional mastery in your music as well, and you will go far. I don't know what happened to the kid, but that was the very first time that I knew that vision and simply having the technical capabilities of something are not the same thing. And that's what Phil Spencer has. He has the technical capacity of a leader. I think he has everything he needs to be a great leader, but he doesn't have the vision to actually follow up on. That's the thing. And that's why ultimately he should be fired. Or he should tremendously, I guess, rank up. And he should take Xbox towards his vision, not Satya's, not Microsoft's. Be there to be there for Xbox and what's going to be good for the Xbox. And I believe that that vision will be closer to my vision for it. Because my vision for Xbox is a console first platform with no exclusives being ported to PC until at least like 5 years later. A console that prides itself on being a console. A console that is made by Xbox and made by their designers and their manufacturers according to their vision. And that is backed up by a world class, host of award winning studios creating award winning games that cost real budgets, up to hundreds of millions of dollars, because they believe in a vision so much that they are willing to put everything on the line in order to achieve it. Something that would delight gamers, something that would be, the next clear, obscure experience, and make that exclusive to the platform so that people, when they see your vision and they see how well you've delivered upon it, they cannot help themselves but to buy into your product. That, I think, is what the proper vision for any console really has to be. And I find validation in that because despite their many mistakes, I think PlayStation and Nintendo still have that. So, this was just a quick video. I would love to hear what you have to say about these very quick topics. And yeah, I'll see you in the chat.